Welcome to the Caribbean American News Media Show, your premier destination for in-depth coverage, engaging discussions, and entertaining segments showcasing the rich tapestry of Caribbean American culture. Join us as we explore a wide range of topics, from current events and community spotlights to arts, music, cuisine, and more. Our show features exclusive interviews with influencers, artists, community leaders, and everyday heroes who are making a difference in the Caribbean American community. Stay informed and inspired with our thought-provoking segments that highlight the diversity, resilience, and creativity within our community. Tune into the Caribbean American News Media Show for a captivating blend of news, entertainment, and storytelling that celebrates the Caribbean American experience. Get ready to discover new perspectives, celebrate successes, and connect with the heartbeat of the Caribbean American community. Don't miss a moment of the action. Stay tuned to Caribbean American News Media Show for an immersive viewing experience like no other. Hashtag Caribbean American News, hashtag show, hashtag cultural celebration.
Special good night to our viewers here in Caribbean American News Media Platform. It is good to see you logging in from all walks of life. Greetings, folks. Those of you over there on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. Those of you who are viewing via, a matter of fact, GVD TV channel 115. Will be on in the next 5 minutes. So we want to greet everyone and thank you so much for being here with us on the platform. Please share the live and tag a friend as we get into some serious discussions that I am sure you would be well pleased with. It's concerning the United States and the Eastern Caribbean. We have a variety of topics that we're going to be touching. Most of you would have shared the bulletin to your friends, your families, your neighbors, to everyone, folks. For those of you who are viewing, from Grenada, we want to thank you so much, our Grenadian friends, and those of you who are viewing from the other parts of the Caribbean, the world, greetings. Those of you in Dennery, St. Lucia, how are you? Sakafet. All right. We have a guest with us tonight, and so we're just connecting with our television channel there in St. Lucia, GVD TV, and the signal will be up very soon. But share the live and tag a friend as we get ready to enter into our discussion.
At Palette Pleasure, located Ogier Vieux Fort, we take pride in our ability to cater to a wide range of events and occasions, whether it's a joyous celebration like a birthday, anniversary, wedding, or graduation, or a more somber gathering such as a funeral or first communion. We are dedicated to providing exquisite culinary offerings to suit each unique event. Our diverse menu includes offerings such as funeral treat boxes and treat boxes for all other occasions, ensuring that we can provide comfort and support during difficult times, as well as enhance the festivities during happier moments. In addition, we offer prepackaged meals designed for all occasions, ensuring that the food at your event is not only delicious but also convenient. Call us today at 758-733-3365 for your finger-licking and palatable foods.
At Great Vision Designs, we value our customers and provide cutting-edge customer service. Great Vision Designs specializes in television broadcasting and live streaming of funerals, sports events, weddings, meetings, shows, and more. Call us today at 722-6542 or 726-9914 or follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Great Vision Designs, coverage you can count on.
Radio. Your host for tonight is Garfield Oliver. Let's get to work.
All right, again, greetings and welcome to Caribbean American News Platform. Those of you who are viewing us via GVD TV channel 115, that is Flow there in St. Lucia. We want to thank you so much. Welcome to the broadcast tonight. I have a guest tonight, and I want to quickly get into the program. I want to congratulate Luana and all the others there in St. Lucia for their selection. Congratulations to all of you, and I want to wish, I know I am late, the people of Grenada happy independence to you over there in St. Lucia. To those of you, Grenada, sorry, those of you who are celebrating birthdays and anniversaries, we wish you all the best from our end here, and we look forward to you just enjoying the moment. And thank you for choosing us as your number one this time of the night. That is a Tuesday at 8:15. Yes, we are number one in this time slot, and so thank you so much for making that possible. All right, so we get to work. My guest tonight is, folks, no stranger to us, Dr. Powell. Yes, Dr. Powell, and he is here with us. We had him here as Edwin Powell. He is a professional, of course. He is an advisor, security advisor, national security advisor to the Prime Minister Jew of St. Kitts and Nevis. I know in my interactions with Dr. Powell, he speaks very well of the many positive moments that the country of St. Kitts have had, and we know that there are no country that are without issues. And so we're here tonight not to really have an in-depth discussion on St. Kitts and Nevis, but we're here to speak about the region on a whole, and we know that there are some developments coming out of the United States with a new president. We also want to look into some of the policies that and the impact on these developing states. What can be done by some of our leaders to help cushion whatever blow we are expecting, whether it's with tariff or the deportation of hardened criminals or just deportation of people to the country, whether they're criminals or not. But we also want to look at the criminal part of it, because we have been experiencing an increase of criminal activities in the region, not only Grenada or St. Lucia or St. Vincent or St. Kitts, but in other parts of the region. And so my guest tonight is Dr. Powell. Greetings and welcome to the platform. So it's a pleasure to have you here tonight, and thank you for being a friend.
Garfield, thank you for having me back. It's a pleasure to be back, and St. Lucia is always a second home to me, and it's always good to connect.
Yes. So thank you so much for being here. And I know that you are a professional, like I said earlier, and you advise the government of St. Kitts, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts, and Nevis on security matters. And I heard some good news some time ago that you guys were able to bring the crime to under some type of control, and I know with you over there advising that administration that we would expect to see great improvement based on your experience.
Yeah, well, I wish I could take all the credit, but most of the credit, I think, comes from the men and women who wear blue. I am the special advisor to the Prime Minister. And oftentimes I'm mistaken as the national security advisor. We do have a national security advisor here in St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Lionel Rollins. And if people keep crossing our titles up, I'm going to have to, he's probably going to take me to court for impersonating his job, his position. But no, in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have done, I think, some unique things during some unique times. We have here a very young and progressive leader by the name of Dr. Terrence M. Drew. And Dr. Drew, from the first day that I met him, has really been adamant that we look at crime as a public health issue. As you look at crime as a symptom of something. What is causing this crime rate to explode the way it is. And he oftentimes uses analogies such in health, such as a fever. A fever only comes when there's some type of bacterial infection in the body. And so to actually get rid of the fever, you have to at least look at the cause of the infection and use broad spectrum antibiotics to deal with it. And so that's how he's dealing with health. He's using those analogies to really look at crime and dissect it. We also have a very vibrant community policing in place, where we are actually out in the communities and reaching out to people in the communities. The commissioner here, Commissioner Sutton, is providing some exemplary leadership. The National Security Advisor is setting the policy, and we have a National Security Council that is actually paneled weekly to actually look at these issues and thrash out issues and leaving no stone unturned. We know that job creation is a problem around the world when it comes to crime. Some individuals engage in criminal activity because they don't have opportunities. And so this government is looking at ways of creating jobs and not leaving anyone behind. We have ways in which we are pipeline out of prison, where we're just not letting people out of prison and dropping them on the sidewalks, because we know what the recipient is going to look like if we do that. So we're actually creating opportunities for them as well. But we also have ways where we have began to increase our intelligence through collaboration. We have some some technologies. Of course, it's something I can't really speak of. But we also have a tactical team that I'm proud of that is well trained and very able. But we know that crime cannot be tackled only from the police or policing perspective. That it has to be a all of government approach if we really want to solve this problem. And hats off to the Honorable Dr. Terrence M. Drew, who is really leading the charge.
And thank you. And Dr. Powell, you spoke about treating the crime situation as a health issue. I want us to look at something that is about to be unleashed on the Caribbean, countries like St. Kitts, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and those countries. You, based on what I'm hearing, your people there in St. Kitts, you guys have been working in order to deal with the surge of crime. But then we have a major problem that is coming our way in the region. And I am not sure how many of our leaders in the Caribbean realize that we are going to be facing a very serious problem when it comes to crime, criminality in the region because of the new policies of the United States. I wish we can go over there for a minute. The whole immigration discussion that we are reading about, we are seeing on the news, many families would have encountered ICE along the way and would have been returned to their country. The government of the United States, Donald Trump, he's looking at sending home all these criminals back to these countries. Have your people there in St. Kitts, or do you hear any discussion within the region as to putting a task force in place, coming together as a region to tackle this, these immigration issues?
Yeah, just looking at some of the foreign policies that are actually being propagated by the new administration, such as scuttering a USAID, scuttering Department of Education, consumer safety, and the immigration policies also are somewhat not progressive. And I fear that it's going to backlash. We're going to have somewhat of a backlash. And I hope we get that opportunity to talk about that a little more as we progress in the show. But I think that I can't speak for leaders across the region, but I can almost I'm almost sure that all of the elected officials across the region are looking at deportation sheets, looking at the possibilities of persons coming back to the region with criminal records who are, according to the Trump administration, being deported because they are actually participating in criminal activities. And so I think it's probably in our best interest to look at it from a regional perspective, because individuals come back into the region, while they may come back into one state and drive up statistics in one state, but region-wide, it has implications because of the close proximity of the islands, and of course the agreement with CARICOM and its travel, the lack of travel restrictions and so forth and so on. So I think it's incumbent upon all of our elected officials, and most importantly, at the very high echelon of government, to really start looking at how we're going to deal with this mass exodus of individuals coming back, leaving the United States and coming back into the Caribbean. And I think it starts at immigration. In immigration, I think we need to monitor who comes in. We need to, first of all, have a very candid conversation with the United States in terms of who they're sending back. We need to know who's coming back, and we need to actually know where they are at all times. And we need to make sure that those persons have better opportunities once they come here, and the fact that they don't come here to the Caribbean and engage in criminal activities like they were purported to have done in the United States. But as far as a task force, I don't think at this particular point in time that's something that's in place.
Right, because I believe we at some point we would have to have a conversation as a region, because let me ask you a question, Dr. Powell. When the United States government deport these criminals back to the region, to the Caribbean, how do we process as a country or as a nation? How do we process these deportees? Do we fingerprint them, put them into our system? What do we do? Just allow them to get to the airport and go free, or what do we do?
Well, based on the Constitution, we can't deny them access back into the federations in which or states in which they are citizens. So we have to accept them back. But we do have to have, if in fact they do have a record, and that information I think needs to come from ICE, from immigration and customs enforcement. That information about the types of criminal activities that they were involved in. And when they do come back, while I think it would be somewhat, to me, I think it would be somewhat intrusive to fingerprint them because they haven't committed a crime. But it's probably best practices to keep an eye on them, and there's ways of doing it where individuals are monitored when they come back to the respective states at home, that we provide opportunities for them to give them the chance to go the straight and narrow, if in fact they have been involved in criminal activities. But if they aren't in the mindset of coming back and contributing to the civil society, then that's what we have our criminal justice system in place for. Now, I don't think that we should, in no way, no shape, form, or fashion, harass individuals and knocking on their doors day in and day out. But there's ways through community policing that we know we can figure out what people are doing, who they're associating with, and whether or not they're engaging in illicit activities. And so it's
Okay, folks, we just lost Dr. Powell, and he will be back shortly. I believe that was a technical glitch on his end, and so we await my guest, Dr. Powell. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, I don't think that it's in our best interest to harass individuals, but we at least need to know where they are and what they're doing, and most importantly, create economic opportunities for them. Because I think once we create economic opportunities for them, then oftentimes individuals will shy away from criminal activities.
Right, so it sounds a little scary at the same time, because right now there are countries in the region who cannot even control, the criminals in their country right now as we speak. The gangs, that are causing chaos in some of these countries, they have great challenge in dealing with them. So I am thinking with some of these criminals who would have been deported back to these countries, that is going to be a challenge, because based on what you're saying, Doc, is that the system, whether it's the police, the government, now need to just wait, watch, and hope that, these individuals do not act on their past, and that is dangerous, because it means that lives can be lost, properties, and a host of the damage can be done before we do that. So it sounds like we need to have a real serious discussion as a region, as countries, in how we can deal. And you spoke about creating opportunities for these individuals, which I believe people can be rehabilitated. People can, but
Yes.
it's scary, of course. And I would believe that we as a nation also would want to, or as a region, would want to have a greater connection with the United States, a greater, a closer relationship with the United States to help us to deal, because we have police force who have been defunded right now. I believe federal aid to countries have been put on hold and is being threatened. We're talking about millions of dollars. I have something here from Congress that I pull up, the U.S. Foreign Assistant to Latin America and the Caribbean region. And under President Biden, and that is in 2024, he requested over $2.5 billion in foreign aid to Latin America and the Caribbean. And some of these funds help with the security of the region, of course, because America would want to keep themselves safe, and to keep themselves safe, they would want to spread out in order to assist these countries to protect themselves and the United States.
Right. You know, I agree with you wholeheartedly with that, because you just made a comment about the fact that individuals are actually coming out, uh, being deported back to the Caribbean. Now, this is the second and third quarter. In most, I don't care where you are around the world, the second and third quarters are pretty much the periods in which the crime rate increases exponentially. Second and third quarter. And so we're looking at the importation and exportation of cocaine out of areas such as Venezuela and Colombia, transported into places like Trinidad and Tobago, and then transshipment points throughout the Caribbean, headed towards the British Virgin Islands and, of course, Puerto Rico, going into the United States of America, and then Bahamas going into the European Union. And so this is not the best time to be deporting, if they're in fact individuals that they're deporting back, criminals, because what's going to happen is we're going to see uh, you know them being deported during a time in which fighting crime becomes the most challenging for us. Is because this is during the time in which we're trying to keep the stats down. We have now individuals who are purported to be, or reported to be, criminals coming into the federation. And so I think that the United States really need to sit back and take a look at its policies. And I understand America First, the America First initiative. Every country around the world has some form of selfishness where they're looking out for their best interests. I understand that. If we didn't have that, with the tariffs and so forth and so on, I understand tariffs, but there needs to be a symmetrical trade relationships where we have individual countries agreeing on levels of tariffs and level of taxes that's going to be fair across the board. Because if you don't, you run into some serious trade wars, and it almost takes almost a decade, years if not a decade, to recover from a trade war because of inflationary pressures that it places on an economy. But what I think the U.S. need to look at, and I'm hoping that this administration looks at, is that when you start pulling funds out of the Caribbean, then you're pulling funds and you're pulling cooperation. You're actually breaking the cooperation between the Caribbean nations in this hemisphere and the United States,
That's right.
which is going to increase the influx of drugs across the southern border. It's going to increase the influx of human trafficking and drug trafficking across the southern borders. And so it's just not in our best interest at this particular time. Now, I know perhaps the administration wants to slow things down, take a look at what's happening, I'm of the mindset that the the agreements that we had, the aid that's been appropriated for the Caribbean and Latin America will probably resume because I think hopefully once an audit is completed, that can come back. But if it doesn't, it's going to wreak havoc in the Caribbean. But at the same time, too, Garfield, you know what we have to do in the Caribbean as well is we have to start being self-sustainable too. We have to find a way to take care of ourselves. We need to start being more robust in farming. We need to be more robust in the blue economy. And the blue economy is all of this water. We're surrounded in the Caribbean with water, and we have to find ways to industrialize that and make it work in our favor. And so it's just not only fishing, but it's the ecology, it's the restoration of ecology, it's a lot of things. It's docks and so forth that we can partake in, and it's just a lot of things that we can do with the blue economy that we just I think taken for granted.
And you speak of Doc, the region countries being self-supportive, looking at, there's a lot of resources in the Caribbean that we have not tapped into as yet. And I don't want to say as a result of lazy politicians or politicians with lack of vision, but I believe that we're way behind when it comes to sustaining ourselves. We have always depended on other nations to give us a handout, whether it's to help us train our police force or equip the police force or give us an ambulance, or give us a housing scheme for the poor or some hospital. We've always appeared to have had our hands out to these nations, but not looking. And thank God that Guyana was able to go beyond just stretching their hands, but getting into their seabed and tapping into that wealth that was sitting there all these years. And there are more of that sitting around the region that we can actually support ourselves with, Doc.
Exactly. Yeah, think about it. Guyana's not unique. There are parcels of natural energy and resources throughout the marine and the Caribbean, the waters of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
It's just that we have to find ways to prioritize ways of exploration, energy exploration, finding different ways of doing it. And one thing that I can say about the Caribbean is that we have a strong intelligentsia in the Caribbean. Don't sleep that for a moment. When there's no dull people here in the Caribbean. It's just that we don't collaborate. We just don't use our resources. We don't come together and use our just the power of mind, the power of ideas to really come up with ways to be sustainable. And like I said to you, we have the resources. We have the blue economy surrounding us. We have the agriculture, strong in agriculture in terms of the region, and it's ways that we can come together and be a force, I think, in the world economy.
Yeah, because years ago, the Caribbean, they have tried to come together, call it the OECS, and that in itself, there are a lot of issues there even now. We can come together. I see no reason why we can't, especially, a matter of fact, I strongly believe that with this new administration here in the United States, that it is going to force the hands of small developing countries to develop faster and to be more sustainable among themselves. Some people would speak of agriculture. We have been bringing in more stuff into our countries from the outside, things that we have in those countries and can produce all by ourselves. And so let us look and we can always go back to security and the deportation, but let us look at tariffs and how they can cripple the economy of these developing countries, such as St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis. And these countries are dependent on tourism. That's all they have, basically, some of these countries. And the CIP program, which I do not believe is sustainable, it will be there for a very long time. That's just me looking in. We got to look at other ways, Doc. Let's look at the tariffs that the United States is about to, the trade war that is taking off right now.
Yeah, and tariffs are used throughout the world for the interest of things being manufactured or industries within a country. And you understand that. And for example, in St. Lucia. St. Lucia is one of the best places in the world for rum. And so, of course, there's going to be tariffs in terms of other rums coming into the country. You want to make sure that the rum industry in St. Lucia thrives. No different than the United States wants its steel industry to thrive in the United States. But there's something called asymmetrical trade, and that's when you put the tariffs in place. Now, a laissez-faire economy or laissez-faire market, it's supposed to be free. It's supposed to be free of all of those human hands, so to speak, in a way that it allows the law and nature of supply and demand to just run its course. But of course, we know that we do have our selfish means in where we're trying to protect industries and so forth and so on, and I understand it, but it has to be symmetrical and not in a way that it actually places burden on other countries whose economies would actually crumble if, in fact, tariffs were at 25%, 30%. Other countries, some economies could not handle that.
Because right now in St. Kitts, it's about 8.88%. There's 8% tariffs right now. Well, in 2020, and also St. Lucia, we have about 9%. A little higher than St. Kitts, and I mean,
yeah, and see, those are regulated. Those are regulated and regulated for inflationary measures, and it's regulated for based on the economy. Now, like you made a point earlier that 60% of the most countries in the Caribbean's GDP comes from tourism, and we do have to move away from it. But the tariffs, going back to the tariffs, tariffs across the board aren't bad at all. Although we don't, and people say we have these free markets. No such thing as a free market.
Yeah.
Laissez-faire is gone, dead and gone. Adam Smith is somewhere, the father of laissez-faire, somewhere rolling in his grave, saying in fact that it no longer exists. But but we have to find ways to make sure that it's equitable and that it does not create these trade wars. Because I hope that we can settle. The U.S. can settle its trade policies with Mexico. I hope that it could save its trade policies, salvage its trade policies with Canada, and most importantly, the European Union. Because while you start off with tariffs, you're gonna have reciprocal. They're gonna reciprocate. They're gonna retaliate with their tariffs, and then you're gonna have a trade war. And when you and from a micro perspective, see, most people don't understand from a micro perspective. You have a person growing corn in the United States. Once a trade war hits the board, then what you do is you're going to have individuals who are going to be producing less corn, right? As a result of that. And then when the trade war is over, then you're going to have that person having less corn. And then as a result of having less corn, then the supply is less. And what's going to happen to the price? The price is going to go up. And so it's not going to benefit anyone to go into a trade war, because it's going to take years and perhaps a decade to balance that thing back out again, where you have your your persons who grow corn get their yields back up high enough so that they can drop the prices. So it's just not in our best interest to see a trade war. I think it really is to me. It falls into the chaos theory at this particular time. I think it's going to be attractive for China. It's going to be attractive for Russia because look, you're going to have these countries who are going to try to start diversifying their portfolios, right?
Yes.
And who are they going to use to diversify their portfolios? China,
China.
the very country who the U.S. is trying to isolate in terms of foreign policy, and so it's we have to be careful in terms of how we I think the United States how we do things because it has a broader impact not only around the world but most importantly in the Western Hemisphere, and that impacts us.
Right. And with this new administration, the policies, we I am suggesting that the leaders in the region come together and have conversations with the United States. It's all about negotiations, having a discussion, building relationship. And people will say, well, Trump is a bad man, Trump is doing this, but he is the president of the United States. And
Yeah.
whatever he does can, as you said, can affect the islands. It can affect the people. For instance, groceries at the store, because we are importing so much from the outside, you cannot get away from feeling the impact even more than these bigger countries. It will cripple your economy. Who gets affected? The poor families.
Exactly.
Those who
Poor
are
families.
already struggling to put food on the table. And so I believe the time is now for regional governments to come together, whether they are labor or conservative, come together and have a conversation. And also look within your country. What can we do? Yes, I go back to tourism. Tourism, anything can shake tourism, can throw it off its marbles. A storm, a plague, some natural disaster,
Pandemic.
volcano.
Yeah.
And we saw
Look
it
at- look at what- look at-
in after during COVID-19.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
So we cannot depend wholeheartedly on tourism. We have to develop our infrastructure. There's ways of developing infrastructure, building hospitals, improving healthcare, and creating healthcare related jobs, creating infrastructure jobs. Really start looking at energy exploration. We have to get outside of the box.
we got to, yes. And I believe we need more factories in the region. We need more factories.
Manufacturing for exports. Exactly.
Right, for
We need to start
exports.
making.
Yeah.
Yeah, start making because that's the strength of any economy is the amount exporting more than you import. And export means you're selling, and so you're bringing money in into the coffers. And so looking at ways of increasing textile, factories and so forth. And that's by far one of the most, I think, progressive ways of really moving towards sustainability.
But Dr. Powell, I don't know if you'll agree with me, and you don't have to, but I am getting the sense, the feeling that we've had a lot of, what I would say, weak leadership in the region of late. Because I mean,
I can't disagree with you because looking across the region, I would argue that we have to have government working for the people, and not just for persons in government. What I say across the world is the level of corruption that is in government. If we can remove just 30% of corruption in government, and watch the lack of corruption, that 30% go to benefiting the populace. Can you imagine? I'm not saying 50%, 60, just 30%, bro.
Wow, wow.
And so it's that in which I think is causing government not to be efficient and effective across the world. It is selfishness that is really moving government. It is bureaucracy. I think and I listened, the whole entire week about Elon Musk and him attacking this Doge and him attacking government and looking at waste, fraud, and abuse and corruption. There is a lot of corruption across the world in the U.S. government, other governments across the world that probably needs to be looked at. Now, I'm not saying he's the best person to be doing it.
Yeah.
I think he comes in with perhaps some baggage, but we really got to get rid of this corruption, man. And I think that speaks to uh, when you have a corruption that plagues the government, that in itself impacts and affects the leadership as well. So I agree with you. You know I can't say that you're wrong for saying that we do have some weak leadership, but I would say it's the leadership is probably impacted wholeheartedly by the level of corruption that
Corruption.
they deal with daily.
Right. And I mean, the question has always been who will guard the gods, because a government gets into power, they bring in their security, they bring in the all their national security ministers, they bring in all their guys, and a lot of stuff, can happen there. And I'm not, and you said it right, just 30%. If we can just, have and even wastage too, because every time you have an elections too, in some countries, you have the breaking down, the stopping of projects, the restarting of projects, cancellation of projects,
Yeah,
which costs the government and the people millions of dollars, which is
a
wastage. So
lot of money.
we can also deal with the wastage in the region.
Yeah. But what I think I think that across the world we are seeing shifts in just voting, and I think that
Yeah.
in even in Germany, in Eastern Europe, in some Latin American countries, and in the United States, we saw a shift to the right. But then, after seeing this shift to the right, uh, there was a broad shift to the right. But you can't blame Republicans for coming in and moving the agenda to the right, because when Democrats came into office, they moved things to the left. No different than other parties in the Caribbean, other
Yes.
political parties in St. Lucia and
Yeah.
St. Kitts and in
That's
other
right.
other countries in the Caribbean. But when you move it too far, too quick, when you move the needle too fast, too quickly, you move the dial too quickly, then what it does, it creates a backlash,
Yeah.
and in the chaos theory becomes kind of clear in terms of how things are actually run. But when you look at these things, I think that eventually it's going to move the populace back to a progressivist state. And what I mean by that, and
Yeah.
I don't
Talk to
want
me.
to go and start talking about the Enlightenment period in Immanuel Kant and John Stuart Mills, but it's going to come a time where, especially in the States and in St. Lucia and in St. Kitts and Nevis, where you're going to have a core of major parties coming together in the center who are actually after progressive ideas, looking for that reason in that morality that Immanuel Kant talked about, and looking for the utilitarianism that John Stuart Mill talked about, that if it makes people happy, then it's right, and if it destroys people, then it's wrong. You're going to have people moving back to that center from the left as well as from the right, and forming new parties. I really see this, man. You hear people disgusted about just how politics is being run across the world. This party wants this, and it's just tribalism here. This party wants this, and it's tribalism on this side. And people just want safe streets. They want clean water. They want access to electricity, and that and of course, when they turn the tap on, they want water. They want to make sure that the kids are learning in school. They want to make sure that there are economic opportunities. They want to make sure that prices of food is down. They want to make sure that they're making livable wages, not just minimum wages. And you can be a progressive and still be a conservative, or you can be a progressive and want those ideas and still be a liberal.
That's
But
right.
people are going to start moving to that center, Garfield, and give it another decade or two. And I think that we're going to see a different electorate when it comes to politics, because people are starting to see that it's a game. It's a game to the left and it's a game to the right. You ride this wave, like you say. You start a project in this administration, and you scutter it, and you start another one. And
Yep.
the one that you started cost millions of dollars. You just watch it right in front of you after you spent millions of dollars in it. But it's just, and people are watching their hard-earned tax dollars just going to waste. And so, and at the same time, their conditions at home aren't improving. So I'm making that prediction tonight that we're going to see a progressive movement in the next decade or so. Watch
And
it.
I would agree. I am getting that feel myself. Like you rightly said, Doc, when you look at some of these countries, the medical system is at its worst. Some of these medical systems, hospitals, have become funeral homes. Basically, you go in and you get rolled out, in a body bag or something. Lack of equipment and medication, and there is this scrambling to get some contributions for our hospitals, whether it's some ration medication or some specialists coming down to do some pro bono medical services, individuals having to choose between death and raising monies to get overseas to deal with the cancer crisis that we have in the region. But we really have a serious health problem in our country that we have not planned for. We have not done anything for. We have not done anything at all, as far as I'm concerned, because people still are raising funds. There is no national insurance, medical insurance, where individuals can pay a little $5 in or $20 in and, still have access to decent medical care. If you have a lot of money, then you have access. If you don't, then God be with you. And so we have really not done well, and I have not seen a lot of visionary leaders of late. I think after like John Compton and those guys way back, I'm not sure if you heard of John Compton. It's at Lucia.
Yes.
And back in the days, you had a lot of good leaders who build things that were needed, like what you call dams and water treatment plants and schools. Another problem that we're having, we're not educating our people enough. We're not giving them access enough to a decent education, which is power.
Yeah.
Once you empower the
you're right.
people, friends, I mean, you just watch your country take off. So we have really failed. And so now we're at a place where the United States now is saying, look, we got to protect ourselves up here. We do not want criminals in our country, foreign criminals. We are tired of the food stamp. We are tired of Section 8. We are tired of sending monies to these regions, and politicians are taking it and enriching their families and themselves. We are tired. We are going to search for the corruption. We're going to, and that's what I believe is happening. And so now we in the region, now we're saying, but wait, what about us? We used to get the crumbs. We still want the crumbs. We can't take care of ourselves. And I believe that we are in for a rude awakening as the United States tighten their physical belt. Our police force in the region, our security right now is at risk. Deportation of criminals coming in. We have the pulling back of foreign aid. We have tariffs. We have a disaster brewing that is worse than a volcano.
You're right. You're right. And not to mention, like I mentioned earlier, the second and third quarters are the highest in terms of crime, statistically speaking. So it's just almost a perfect storm. And and going back to what you said about our healthcare system, needs to be, even in first world countries, the healthcare system needs to be improved. You have people even in first world countries who complain, let alone second and third world countries. We definitely need to make sure that our healthcare systems are strengthened, and we have capacity. We build capacity for specialists. This is the problem, Garfield. Is we have doctors and specialists, and we have chemical engineers who come out of schools in the Caribbean, but they head north. They get visas and are actually enticed to come elsewhere and use their talent elsewhere. But we have to do a better job at is keeping our own people here at home. And that's one thing I can say, and I want Dr. Drew to speak for himself. But I personally watched him keep talent within the Federation, is doing what he has to do to make sure that we keep talent right here at home, and we start building back the capacity in different sectors that have suffered, historically. So that's what we have to do across the region. But we also have to look at ways of improving collaboration. There's no need for to have in Saint Lucia. Why would Saint Lucia have a thriving cardiovascular hub, and then Saint Vincent has one too? You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that each one of these islands come up with a specialty. Yeah. St. Lucia focuses on cardiovascular surgery. St. Kitts and Nevis focuses on OBGYN. And so what you do is, when you need those specialties, when you have those complications, you can actually use the networks within the Caribbean to fly these patients back and forth, instead of one hospital within one nation trying to do it all. There's nothing wrong with the primary care providers and the generalists, because we need them across the board. But I'm talking about developing this high-level specialty. It needs to be spread throughout the Caribbean. And we need to use our resources and be able to move. Why do we have to send people to Puerto Rico? Why do we have to send people to Cuba? Why do we have to send people to Miami? We have, like I said earlier, we have that intelligentsia right here in the Caribbean, and we can move people throughout the Caribbean and create those hubs of specialty, those specialty hubs, and so that we don't have to, number one, watch our talent leave the region, but most importantly, have to send family members out of the region in order to receive, just basic health care.
And also, and I'm glad that the conversation have gone into healthcare. And I also believe that we got to build smart as a region. Build smart. We are still building, and you're still hearing of businesses being closed as a result of mold infestation. Every so often, a government building is shut down because there is mold and people are getting sick. We are still building the same structures that cannot even stand the climate challenge that we are facing as small nations with the rising sea levels, the heat, the possibility of droughts and all these things, earthquakes. We are still, and you spoke about the capacity of the idea of us being able to transport folks with medical needs into different countries based on the special services that are medical services that are being offered in the region. But if we build hospitals with galvanized roof, how can you land an emergency evac helicopter on top of your hospitals? Which means that you will have to start building your hospitals with helipads so that you can accommodate these emergencies. But we are still building with galvanized roof. We are still building with split unit AC. We are still just putting up concrete blocks with space between them. So as the place gets hotter and the inside is cold with the AC, then you have this mold problem in the center of the heat and the cold. And I'm not sure what in the world we are doing. Now, you spoke about the special I'm just losing my thoughts a bit because my mind is going so quickly. The special medical services that are needed in the region. And you're right. Why would St. Lucia, not cooperate with other government agencies or government in the region to say, look, guys, we want to build a medical facility to deal with cancer.
Right.
We have a prostate cancer issue in the region. We want you to collaborate with us. We're going to have an agreement. We want to build this here. And look, we have a problem with heart disease. Why don't St. Kitts, you deal? We will send our people there. You send your people to us. We will make it easier. We will, and you have that type of regional approach when it comes to healthcare. I do not believe these small islands can finance their medical facilities. That's why it is failing, it is crumbling, and people are dying. These government leaders must be willing to start collaborating with other leaders in the region, which means that this type of tribalism where you're not a Labour and I'm a this and I'm a that, when you get into power, we got to put that aside in the interest of the development of the region.
Exactly.
So these ministers, these leaders got to start talking, put away all the petty, personal stuff that they do and start thinking outside of your political party. Start thinking about the citizens, not only of your country, but of the region. Because, you have St. Lucians working in St. Kitts, working in Dominica, Dominicans working in St. Lucia, and vice versa, Barbados. And we got to be able to come together, Doc, because, as I said, the pressure is on. There is no more excuse. We can't get away from the effect of the squeeze. We got to now spend every moment of our time as a region in brainstorming, bringing in experts. Look, we believe that we can get some oil from our seabeds.
Yep.
And that should be able to sustain, and sustain our nation. We should be able to get the experts in agriculture to train our farmers so that we can have that food security that is necessary right now. That is a threat, basically, in our region, Doc.
Yep, I agree. It's so much, and you bring up, like, for example, during hurricanes. What if we, especially some of our at-risk young men and women, that we train them as linesmen? During a hurricane, the first thing goes down the power lines. And so if I'm in St. Kitts and perhaps power lines go down in St. Martin's, that country is actually shut down. And what they need is they need people with that skill set, lots of people with that skill set, because if it's a cat 4, cat 5, that's devastating storms. What, let alone a cat 3 is bad enough. But having people already trained to go to St. Martin's and to provide that service, to put those lines back up and get paid for it. What about developing energy? Finding energy, and then developing ways to build underwater cables, or run underwater cables to share energy, underwater cable to share gasoline and oil. Oh, Guyana has oil. Oh, how can that oil be shared throughout the Caribbean? The only way it could be shared is either by shipping it, or either which is the old way, the dinosaur way, or either doing underwater uh, pipelines, like most other countries in the European Union do. And you save money that way, but at the same time, you're creating a job force too, because what persons have to, number one, build the pipeline, and then number two, you have to maintain the pipeline.
Yeah.
That's money, man. That's money, and it all comes from the energy sector, because of course we know oil is a very expensive natural resource, and with it comes dollars. So it's so many different ways that we can get out of our own way. Sometimes we're in our own way, bro.
Yeah.
And so we have to find ways to be creative, um, and use our own ingenuity, but coming together, losing our selflessness, become selfless, and stop being selfish, and find ways to just collaborate. Something that I wish that I could see more of. I think we're doing a great job. I have to say that CARICOM, and is doing a great job of keeping the member states together.
Yeah.
I would just like to see just a tighter molding of all CARICOM countries in cooperation, so that we can become a self-sustainable region. Self-sustainable. We're always going to depend on someone for something, because someone is going to depend on us for something. But to move beyond just having to be solely dependent on this or solely dependent on that, to the point that when a sector falls, we fall with it. My mother always told me, never put yourself up so high that when you never put your position up so high that when the position fall, you fall with it. And that's what we're doing here
Yeah.
with playing chess and checkers with our own futures, man. It's because we have to find a better way to be more creative and self-sustainable.
Yes, and even at the time is now, Doc, for us to do that. I know St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that they're getting ready for general elections, and everybody wants power, but we got to look at the development. The people need to get away from just $500 to vote, some rum, some chicken, or a galvanized. We got to look beyond that. We got to look at what is really what is really needed, the development that is needed in these countries. But
Man,
I want to.
Garfield, you put it out there, did you?
I'm sorry.
You just laid it out there, didn't you?
I
When you said
apologize.
galvanized and chicken and pot full of chicken and $500, huh?
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
is. And what you get at the end of the term, no development, corruption. Sometimes you end up with even dead relatives because there's no medications or no bed, or there's no scanning
Yeah.
equipment, and
But
you
that's one
have
thing I can say
galvanized
about,
chicken and rum.
yeah. And that's one thing I appreciate about you, Garfield, is that you're genuine, and you're candid about the issues. and that's what you have to always be, is candid about the issues. And that's what I, you know, every time you ask me to come on the show, which has been twice, and I couldn't say no. I couldn't, because you put the issues out, and that's what the listeners want to hear. They want to hear the truth, and whether how bad it hurts, we have to just deal with the pain. But truth is important, man, and I appreciate you for being just a truth bearer.
Thank you so much, Doc. But let me ask you. Oh, it's 9 o'clock in your country. I just realized that I am being misled here in the United States. Oh my God, Doc, I do apologize. I am thinking that you're in Washington.
No, man, no. You're fine. But before we go, let's have just a short conversation about Haiti, because I think we are in some cases forgetting about Haiti and its predicament. It's just a untenable situation, and I want to hear from you. I'm your guest, but I want to hear you. What's your thoughts in terms of Haiti, and how do we get them out, our brothers and sisters, out of this predicament, man? How do we do this?
I know this one is hard. Haiti have been struggling for a very long time. I know that Kenny Anthony, former Prime Minister of St. Lucia, he was sent over there to try to, to help. I would like to hear your opinion. I'm very much confused about Haiti, I'll tell you the truth. And I would love to see an end to the violence and a stable government, a stable country where people can, live decently, not being afraid to walk their streets because of the gang violence. And I would love to see some stability, to tell you the truth, in Haiti.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot going on there. And
what is your take on that?
I look at it from a development perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And just off the top of my head, I would, Haiti just didn't get in that situation by itself. Haiti was the first country in the Western Hemisphere to actually free its populace from slavery.
Yeah.
And so it's a capable country, but it has issues. It really needs to strengthen itself in terms of disaster preparedness and climate resiliency, because every time it looks as if Haiti moves a step, takes 2 steps up, there's an earthquake, something happens, some type of catastrophic event that actually takes them back 2 steps. So I think disaster preparedness and climate resiliency is something that they need to look at. But I also think that it's high time that we need to, Haiti needs to look at, I think, diaspora engagement, foreign investments. And I mean real, true, genuine foreign investment, not really, exploitation. We have in the States, and around the world, individuals who are from Haiti who are well off, and I think that the diaspora engagement is going to be important. And then since land reform and housing policies need to be changed because of the dilapidated housing. If you've ever been to Haiti or seen pictures of Haiti, they're in a dire situation. Of course, their healthcare system needs strengthening, just like everywhere else.
Yeah.
I would say the education, education and job development, workforce development, and most importantly, infrastructure development is needed as well. Roads, hospitals, sewage systems, water treatment plants. So they definitely need an economic recovery. And the violence, man, that needs to be looked at from a public health issue too. We have gangs and so forth who just really taken the country over. So it needs an all of government approach. But I think it needs some security stabilization and governance. We need to look at it from that perspective. And when I think of security stabilization and governance, I'm thinking about decentralization of government. Think about that. Decentralization of government where it's you have persons in larger communities outside of just Port-au-Prince who actually represent the people. And I think that will bring more people into the political process and make them feel a part of the political process, and may tamper down some of the violence and some of the feelings of abandonment, political abandonment and government abandonment. So, but I just don't think we're approaching this thing right by just sending in mercenaries and soldiers and so forth and so on. I know it's bad now. Don't get me wrong. When you fly planes over and people shooting at the plane landing, that's bad.
It's bad, yeah.
It's bad. But
Yeah.
sometimes it takes a much softer approach against some of these much tougher approaches to get people to the table and talking. Because if you're both pointing guns at each other, you're not trusting each other.
No, you're not. No.
You don't. So I think it's time that someone step up and say, look, continued violence or excessive violence or violence against violence. It's just not the answer. It's not, because look, that's what they've been doing for the last 5 years at a pace that no one would even believe how things exacerbated in just 5 years.
Yeah.
Things exploded. And it's because police shooting at gang members shooting at police. And it comes a time when you have to say, look, we have to find ways to reconcile.
Yeah.
And but that's my thoughts just off the cuff. But
yeah. And as you
missing
said,
the
we
point
just got
there
to
somewhere.
empower the people to take ownership of their country, and they got to be the ones who also want better. And so they will have to put down the guns against each other, stop burning their neighbor's place, or
true.
the gang leaders need to give up the violence and help to build a nation. Yes, we will always send people inside to try to help, but you got to want what you want. Yeah, but that's what it is. My guest tonight, Dr. Edwin Powell, for those of you who are just coming in, and he's just about to leave. Doc, any parting words?
Well, just want to say thank you. Thank you for just being out here and being a voice for the Caribbean. You're that light, man. That's really people tune in for a reason. Your viewership has a large footprint across the Caribbean, and that's for one reason. So I'm not here tonight to give me any credit. It's to give you the credit. And I want to tell you, brother, keep it going. Keep this movement going. People need to hear these issues. They need to be able to really have these issues brought before them so that they can process them and deal with them on a daily basis. So hats off to you. Keep up the good work and invite me back soon.
Yes, sir. And we will see you again. Thank you so much, Doc, for being here with us. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night. All right, folks, that was our Dr. Powell. They're having a discussion on the region. And folks, you can call. I'm going to open the line so we can have a conversation too. 929-586-1821. We can also look at the crisis that we face as a region, as countries, concerning the deportation of criminals into the country. In some, like St. Lucia, which my interest is, we have a health system that is under pressure court system under pressure, a correctional facility under pressure. I mean, it seems, it would appear that everything is under pressure. Now we have a number of deportees who are I would say some of them are sophisticated criminals. They are well seasoned. And the United States is saying, we don't want these seasoned criminals in our country, foreign seasoned criminals. We are sending you back. Some of these criminals, deportees, some of them were taken out of these countries as children. They don't know Castries, some of them. They don't know Viewfort. They don't know Kingstown, St. Vincent. They don't know Bridgetown, Barbados. But the government is saying, look, we don't want you here. We're going to send you back to your country of birth. And think about a broken system. Like I said, the health system, lack of jobs, gangs that are already there. The possibility is these sophisticated deportees, criminals, can end up in one of these gangs in the country, and before you know it, all hell have break loose in your country. And you heard earlier, Dr. Powell was saying that some of these countries, a matter of fact, when the government, the United States, deport these criminals, what are you going to charge them with when they come to your country? They have not committed a crime in your country. So now you got to wait and hope that these sophisticated criminals, that they control themselves or they change. God forbid that they get more radical in the country, more free. They feel like there is not a sophisticated system like the country that they were deported from, and they take advantage of a broken police system, a broken legal system, and decide to just go crazy in your country. All hell break loose for that nation. So think about the impact of the government of the United States policy on immigration alone, how deadly it can be for developing countries. So we would hope by now that there are major discussions that are going on between the regional leaders, because you cannot deal with these cases on your own. You got to come together in order to be able to manage what is coming your way. So you have the immigration crisis, which can turn out to be a security crisis for the nation. Think about it. Right now, in some countries, they cannot manage their crime situation. Many of them are putting just a little plaster on a sore, a massive sore that need amputation. And they're hoping with the little plaster that, it will hold off things until I get out of office or until I'm gone. And we are not dealing, friends, with the security challenges in our nation. We are distracted by trivial, petty things, childish, things that should not really attract us in this season, folks. It's very serious what I'm saying to you. So you have the deportees coming into the region, and many of them there are a lot of them that have already been sent back to countries. St. Lucia is processing deportees. There are other countries that have already started processing deportees. Now you have to try your best to free up the legal system. You got to free up the police. You got to free up the nurses and the doctors. You got to step it up. Because the United States, we can say all what we want, they're going to protect their shores. They're going to protect their shores because it causes them a lot of money. A lot of money to keep the nation safe and even to feed the criminals. The other issue that we see, and we discussed with Dr. Powell, he has a national meeting, security meeting sometime soon, tomorrow. So we had agreed on a time, so he had to go. You know. We also look at the tariffs. That war that have already started also. If already you having sugar crisis, shortage, rice shortage, and all sorts of shortage, some of these items are produced in the region, but yet there are major crises when it comes to securing these staples. How are you going to deal with this trade war? You are totally dependent on CIP and tourism. That's what we don't have bananas to boast about. Think about where we are in the region, friends. There needs to be greater collaboration in order to deal with these challenges, these man-made disasters that are about to take place in the country. So I am not interested in petty waste of time conversations, folks. We have a major crisis on our hand, and the more I can repeat it is the better for you as a people in these small countries. Yeah? The more I repeat it is the more, friends, it is better for you in the region. The more we discuss these issues, the policies of the United States, tariffs and the trade wars, crime and the deportation of criminals into the country. You are already paying high prices for your gas at the pumps in some of those countries. St. Lucians have not seen a decrease in gasoline over 3-4 years. They have not seen a change, a significant change in the price of gasoline. Think about a crisis, this economical war that is about to take off. If you are concerned about gas price now, folks, you are in trouble. You are in serious trouble. And I heard some taxi drivers in St. Lucia complaining of tourism coming in and they're not making a dollar. Tourists are coming into the country, boats. So the governments are boasting this. We have a great increase of tourism, but then those people who really matter, who are out there, who have investment in their vehicles, they have families to take care of. They're saying to you, but what is it? We're not getting anything. We're not getting anything. They're pre-booked trips, and these major companies, they're the ones sucking up all the funds. So very soon, taxi drivers will have to join one of those big taxi companies or tour companies in order to make $1 for their family. So we got to even look at the tourism product and how more people can get a piece of the pie. So it's one thing to boast about an increased number of tourists, but it is another thing for the taxi drivers to say nothing is running with 7 cruise ships and 5 cruise ships. And then the banana farmers on one end are saying, well, very soon there will be no bananas. And then the boys at Bordile, some of them are there on remand for years, have not seen a court. The medical system, no beds, medication, equipment. Guess what? People die, lose their life. It's a disaster no matter how you turn. And that's why I believe we're at a crucial juncture in the region where the people of these countries can no longer accept bluffs and promises from politicians. The people of the nation must be able to feel a direct impact of the policies of government. Because most of the time governments boast about their achievements, they boast based on their friends themselves, their friends and their families' pocket. They boast based on the amount of lands and houses and businesses that they themselves have accumulated while they are in government. And therefore, corruption. Anytime you have a high percentage of corruption in a nation, then you will have a greater percentage of poverty and underdevelopment in your country. And I don't know, and I'm kind of calm tonight, and I'm right in the center in my discussion, folks. Because there comes a time when we really got to look at real development, real policies. And I'm not really hearing in the region, rather, a bold approach to the energy challenges that we're facing. Electricity is just too expensive in the countries. Too expensive because we have lazy politicians. By now, most St. Lucians, Vincentians, Nevitians, and Bajans should have solar panels. It is an investment that can be made, that can reduce on the cost of energy, on the cost of lighting your house, on the cost of maintaining your fridge. Because lighting is also security. When you have lack of lighting, it can pose a security risk hazard to you and your family. So, energy is security also. And we must find ways to get cheaper energy to the citizens. We have it within us in the region, friends. Guyana is producing gas. Guyana is taking off like a bullet. I'll be heading to Guyana shortly. Guyana is taking off like a bullet with developments. Taking off. I believe, I am telling you, that there is enough resources in the region to sustain the region. I will always say that. The problem is our leaders' lack of vision, selfishness, and corruption. If only, and Dr. Powell said it, if only we can get at least some percentage of this corruption out of the way, we will have enough monies to maintain our hospitals, our roads, our regional security. Folks, we have a region that always have their hands out begging. We're always begging, please give me a loan. Please give me some oil for my bananas. Please give me some money for the youth. Please. We're always begging outside for stuff for the inside. So we can almost say that we're a begging region. We are dependent on a lot heavily on foreign aid and supplies to the nation. And I am yet to hear from some regional governments of a bold approach for the region. I'm yet to hear it. All you hear about is this one, mother, cousin, blah, and you don't really get substantial discussion anymore. And what we want to hear from our leaders are, what are we going to do with the crises that are before us? What are we going to do to improve the lives of the people of the region? What are we going to do to collaborate on the health crisis that is before us? What can we do to reduce on our foreign dependence? And what are we going to do to accommodate the deportees that are coming into the region? What are we going to do? You're talking about an extra pressure on your infrastructure. What can be done? And I'm proposing that we take politics to a different level, where politics truly impact the lives of the people. And I'm calling on all the new politicians. New politicians. I want you to focus more. I want you to focus more on major policies. I want you to go where no man has gone before in your country. Think bold, propose bold, go bold, because we are way behind on the infrastructural development that are needed in the region. I'm going to say this again. This is not a time for mobby shop politics. This is a moment in time for us to have serious discussions on matters that are important towards the development of the people in the region. This is no joking time. This is no joking time, friends. This is time for a more bold and serious discussion. We're going to take a break and we will be right back. I'm going to spend a little more time with you. Again, the lines are open, 99586-1821. We're going to take a break.
At Great Vision Designs, we value our customers and provide cutting-edge customer service. Great Vision Designs specializes in television broadcasting and live streaming of funerals, sports events, weddings, meetings, shows, and more. Call us today at 722-6542 or 726-9914 or follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Great Vision Designs, coverage you can count on.
All right, folks, and we are right back. And thank you for those of you who are viewing us on channel 115, that is GVD TV, and also on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Thank you so much. I see our viewers on YouTube. They are stable. Thank you so much for being here with us. And Facebook fluctuates. It's up and down. And I know we had a very long discussion with Dr. Powell, special advisor to Dr. Ju, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. He is based in Washington, and so I'm very happy to have him as a friend and an advisor also. Thank you so much, Dr. Powell, for being here on Caribbean American News Media Platform. So let's go back to the substantial discussion that we've been having. So most of you would have heard Mr. Trump, the President of the United States, signing an executive order to cut on foreign aid. Now, let me just show you something, and I did quote it earlier, and this is a document from the Congressional Research Services, and this service have been in existence from 1914. So here's a summary. The summary is R47721 for reference August 6, 2024. All right? And it is, and I quote here, and this is the budget request, F52024, that is from the Biden administration. $2.5 billion in foreign assistance for Latin America and the Caribbean. And this money, friends, helps with, boosting the security of the region, dealing with illicit drugs. It deals with interests of the United States, basically, because we know that the region is used as a transshipping hub to the United States. And so the government of the United States finance some of the security agencies in the region. Trump says, I'm holding back on these aid. Let's review these aid to see what is going on and what we can cut. And do you understand what this says for these countries? Do you understand, my friends? And let me just talk about local politics for a minute. And let me speak my mind. I don't like where it's going. The reason for that is we are drowning out discussions that we should be having right now as a nation. Drowning out completely. There are some people who are involved in the politics who should just not be involved in it, because it is not about policies, it's not about developing for the future, it's not about meeting the challenges that are before us. It's about ourselves. And I'm telling you, friends, I am becoming sicker, if that's the word, and sicker as I listen to the conversations of politicians. I am becoming disgusted, embarrassed, to say the least, on some of the discussions. And I am not sure why we are taking this lightly. Is it that we do not understand what is before us? Is it that we do not understand the challenges that are before the nation? Is it that we just don't care about anything? But for people like me who understand that we are way behind on our development, we are way behind on preparation for what is to come. For those of us who understand, and Dr. Powell, we touched on it earlier, the healthcare crisis that are before us. No longer can governments of the region operate hospitals on their own. No longer can we talk about foreigners. No longer can we say to people, go back to your country. No longer can we do that, friends. Do you understand that these small countries cannot stand on their own? You take away regional support from some countries, you take away international support, and these countries are left in trouble. Can't survive for a year. Some of these countries do not have a year's supply of money. Do you understand that? But yet they have monies enough for a year of corruption. Do you not understand the issues, friends? So I am challenging new politicians, especially those who were just selected for the United Workers' Party. Take a different approach to the politics. Do not allow lazy politicians who have been there before to drag you in the same cat and dog discussions about mother, auntie, cousin, and all kind of nonsense. This is the time for you to focus, look at the nation, the country, talk about the medical system, talk about our young people, friends. Our young people are scared out of their shoe to even speak up on what is affecting them. I heard a young popo being embarrassed, humiliated, people talking about her size, her food, her business, all because she stood on a platform and spoke her mind. Nobody can speak their minds anymore. Nobody can speak on the issues. Nobody can speak on what is affecting them without being stained, besmirched, embarrassed. And some men are very comfortable in disrespecting women publicly. A woman have a right. She has a right. And we got to defend women on this platform. Women have a right in the nation to have discussions openly And us as men should be able to sit there and listen to them without wanting to embarrass them or insult them or humiliate them. Women should be able to apply for government programs, whether they're on the other side or the other side. They should be able to apply for government programs and not be ashamed to speak up on the flaws and the lack of whatever it is in the country. And my greatest gripe is that we are comfortable flying from that level. Brethren, the level that you are flying at as a nation will lead to your destruction. Haiti did not get where it got overnight. A lot of good people stood still. And before you know it, gangs took over the nation. People are afraid to speak because they're afraid of dying. People are afraid to speak because they're afraid of victimization. The corruption is so great that if you speak up, you'll be victimized, you'll be insulted, you'll be abused verbally. And I'm saying, friends, and I'm very disappointed in some of the players. Very disappointed. We have lost our humanity. And while we have lost our humanity, people are losing their lives at our hospitals. While we have lost our humanity, a generation stands silent, not willing to engage, not willing to engage in fear of embarrassment and insult. Young people don't like to be insulted. They can't deal with it. I am ashamed where our discussion has gone to. And I'm saying, to face the challenges in the region, politicians, a matter of fact, let's pull it back from the politicians, political parties need to think about the people of the country. They got to think beyond their party, and they got to think about the people in their country. Because there are some people, if their party is not in power, there is no independence. If their party is not in power, there is no celebration. They don't go to any event at all. And when their party is in power, it's independence and everything is well. That represents a failed nation. And so, I want to say to young Popo, who is being embarrassed, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You exercise some of your God-given rights and rights that were given to you by the Constitution of your country to speak up, to petition your government. You exercise that right and you have nothing to be ashamed of. The people who are trying to embarrass you have everything to be ashamed of, because history will embarrass them. And they would have embarrassed their generations, even after they're gone. Because a nation and a generation will look back at these clips and will cry shame over our graves. Cry shame over some of the networks that exist now. They will cry shame because they will look back and they would see ignorance. They will see a lack of humanity. They will see bullying. They will see politicians who are just out of control. And it seems now we are living in a time where politicians who are out of control are celebrated. And so I challenge you, new politicians, to cease. Cease. Study the issues. Understand the issues that are before us. Speak on the issues that are before us. A matter of fact, speak on the solutions for the issues. Because to speak on the solution of those issues, you must understand the issues, of course. We can no longer travel down a path, or this path that we're on. There is a storm coming, relentless in its fury. And every system of government that can be shaken will be shaken. Every corner of the society will be shaken. There is a storm coming, mark my words. There's a storm before us, where many of you will have a problem in buying and selling. You'll have a problem just eating, just surviving. There is a storm upon us coming, and our leaders are playing in the river on the bank with the citizens. I urge you to let's get back to decency. Let's get back to normalcy. I'm ashamed of grown men. I witnessed today something that I could not believe. While we may see the defects or lack of leadership in anyone, and there's certain things I don't speak of in public. I speak of them privately. But what I heard today, the cursing and the swear words and the level in which a grown individual took off, it was shameful to say the least. It was embarrassing to say the least. I believe it is time for us to step it up. It's time to step it up. It's time to wake up. Because history will not be kind. No. It will never be kind. Challenges are too great before us as a region. Too great for us to be cursed on social media. The issues are too great for us to be childish, petty, and out of control. And gone are the days when, as public speakers, we draw a line in our conversations. Gone are the days when people would be embarrassed to support nastiness. We have lost our way. And my sad prediction, and this, friends, have happened throughout. It has happened before. I am afraid that there is a storm that is coming that will shake the foundation of the region. And God forbid that we do not change now. We will be caught up. We will be caught up. We will get ourselves caught up in this storm. Because righteousness does not survive or live in our hearts. And again, I want to say to Latoya Popo, you're a young woman. You spoke your mind. You chose a political party to identify with. You applied for finance or grants that was provided by the taxpayers of the nation through a government. And you have nothing to be ashamed of, young lady. Nothing at all. You do not owe anyone an apology. To have government agencies calling you because you receive finance from a government agency, it is shameful. It represents actually the times that we're in. There is no limit to where the arm of government will go. And if I heard you right, you said, young lady, that your pictures were not on the website of the unit. And I would recommend that an investigation takes place. Because agencies should protect private information. And I dare challenge you young people who, and I know of a lot of United Workers' Party supporters, youth, who have applied to this agency for some support. I pray that this don't happen to you, because we have lost our way. There are agencies, news agencies, who refuse to carry certain United Workers' Party press conferences and news. Refuse. Your democracy has been crippled, has been taken hostage. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Taken hostage. But my point tonight, friends, is that there's a great storm on the horizon. And it is time for our leaders in the region to start having a conversation. It is time for us as leaders, as political leaders, to commit to the democracy of our individual islands in the region. Let us go back to following the constitution of your country. Because to trample on those constitutions is to trample on the constitutional rights of a people. It breeds corruption and vindictiveness. It breeds political bullying and expose, if that's a word. The world is watching, friends. It is time for us to protect the democracy of the region. It is time for all people to bring themselves at a place where they can respect their neighbors and respect their opponents in politics. But we got to bring back decency to the region. The world is watching. And if democracy is threatened in St. Lucia, democracy will be threatened in Grenada and Guyana. And if it is threatened in St. Lucia, it will be threatened in the Far East because we are selling our passports, the CIB program. And we are saying to people, when they question, what are the benefits of me having your passport, your citizenship, you say to them that you have all rights as any other citizen. But then the same government ministers would say to you, you're a foreigner. And you can't come in my country that I was born in and talk to me. Folks, do you understand what I just said there? Do you even understand how the democracy of our nation is at risk? By loose cannons at the helm of our governments. If democracy, friends, is threatened in the region by local politicians, then we have a major disaster before us. So I call on you St. Lucians, I call on you Vincentians, I call on you Grenadians to stay active, keep your eyes open, because we have some serious dinosaur bullies, that are at the head of our government systems, that are retarding the growth and development of our nations because they're short-sighted. They're full of themselves. And the only sight that they have is for them to buy lands, buy properties, enrich themselves, and be called honorable, and get free parking space with special number plates, special dinners, special retirement plans, while you receive the bitter end of the stick. But you hold the power of the democracy. And ever so often, you are given the handle, the lever in your hands to pull. This is not a time to pull those levers of power carelessly. But this is a time where you reflect on the constitution of your nation, and you see whether your constitutional rights are being threatened by politicians. And act. But we're going to be looking more on regional developments on this platform, and we'll be also looking at the issues that are affecting St. Lucia and other countries. And I am going to be bringing to this program a number of guests from the outside, so that we can not only discuss mobby shop issues, but we can put on our big man pants and speak on the issues that are before us. Yes, we will speak on them. You hear what I'm saying? Good. So, folks, I know that it is late, and I'm going to go. I have a very early appointment in the morning, and we're traveling this weekend, and I believe the weekend after that. So I have my schedule all tied up. But, folks, thank you so much for being here with us. And let us stand for what is right, what is decent, and forget about show men and show women. And let us deal with the critical issues that are before us. And ask yourself, how far am I willing to go to safeguard the democracy of the country? How far can I go? How can I get involved, engage in the discourse? How can I make a difference? How, friends? And yes, Veronica, it is pain in my heart, because I know that we are better and we can do better. But sadly, the truth is righteousness will always exalt our nation. Sin brings destruction. The wrath of God is always poured out. Yes, with mixture for a while, but one day it will be poured out without mixture. I say to us, let's get back to decency. Let's get our hearts back in place. And let us respect people's mother. Let us respect people's children. Let us have more respect for our women. Let's have more respect for our leaders. And let's get involved in the development of our region. And by the way, before I leave her, you see this racist thing that is being peddled in St. Lucia? And I'm speaking here on an international platform. And I won't tell you why I'm telling you I'm speaking on an international platform. You will find out later on that I am speaking on an international platform. I'm not going to tell you now. And you'd want to know, why am I speaking the way I'm speaking? Many of you are saying, well, he's strange tonight. What happened? Because I'm speaking on an international platform, friends. Yeah? And let me say, this racist and racism that we are seeing, and bigotry that we are seeing being discussed among us, where people from other parts of the region who are citizens of our country are being cursed and abused. If we don't pull that lever back and stop that nonsense, friends, we are doomed. Because take all these foreigners out of the country. Remove all the foreigners in the country, friends, and you are in trouble. Foreigners with the hotels, some of the major businesses in the country. Many of them contribute heavily to the country. And we can never insult someone because they were not born in the country but yet hold citizenship of that country. They are citizens. They are considered sons and daughters of your country. They are no more strangers and sojourners. They are now citizens of the Commonwealth. And God will remove the birthright of those who don't press and ill-treat the foreigner or the sojourner. There is nothing new under the sun. Nations were destroyed because they abused the strangers among them. Those whose tongues have proclaimed those utterances will quickly experience something that they have never experienced before. We got to adhere to the constitution of our nations. If someone has citizenship of the country, they are citizen with all rights and privileges. Sadly, many of those same individuals are in foreign countries. Their children are in foreign countries. Their relatives are in foreign countries, seeking citizenship of those countries so that they can experience all rights and privileges of a natural born citizen. Many are afraid of the deportation because they want to have some form of citizenship or documentation in another country. Why? Because they need the freedoms that comes with it. Freedom to vote, freedom to petition government, freedom to get certain jobs, freedom of movement. They want those freedoms, but yet they are they are in what we call strong delusion. The sinner is in so much strong delusion that old wretched sinner don't even realize that the sinner is cursing off themselves. And they're calling themselves a wretch because the same thing that they want, another man has in their country. And that's the sinful thing about the whole discussion, because they are seeking the very same thing that the individuals have already received in their own country, while they are in another man's country seeking the very same thing, but saying to the other person, we don't want you in our country. Why do you have our citizenship? Leave our country. Why do you have rights in our country? Humanity have lost its marble. And the train is at high speed, heading into a mountain of mirage and destruction. Before the train is the Rock of Gibraltar. And what they see is a clear path, mirage. Because there's a way that seems right unto man at the end, at the ways of his destruction. So I call on all humans, on humanity, to practice some decency, practice some humanity, and let's get our marbles back in our heads. Because it seems like the whole world have lost its marble. And that's my rant tonight. It was a pleasure being here with you. May God continue to bless you as we continue to touch and to stay on the issues that impact you and your family. I am signing out. I am your host, Garfield Oliver. I shall see you again. Have a beautiful night, folks.
Welcome to Caribbean American News Media State of the Nation with Garfield Oliver. The news you report, let's get to work.